Okay, just gonna line up the cannon here just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now, Barry is armed, so just make sure not to make him mad, ladies and gentlemen. He's got like an 1800s Civil War style cannon pointed right at you. He's a loose cannon brick on the edge who doesn't care about the rules. All right, we only got 2 paramecias left. That's all. I might just film them back to back so we can be done with it. And then I have all of the rest of the year, so December basically, to talk about all of the Zoans. Am I going to be able to do it? Probably not, but I will try. All right, so today's video is actually not a very complicated one. In fact, I made a video last year that lines up, oddly enough, with a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, so I've kind of already done a little bit of the heavy lifting on this. We are talking about Vice Admiral Urbans, a member of the Marines that was there at the Buster Call at Egghead. He has the power of the cannon fruit, or the barrel fruit, but I'm going to go with cannon fruit, because he has the ability to make anything canon. Any character he so chooses becomes canon. He's already used the power on Uta. Who else will he use the power on? This is not a One Piece reference, but if you've watched Naruto, remember that one filler arc in the first part of the story where they encounter the swordsman of the mist, Raiga, and he had those 2 swords, like the lightning fangs and stuff. Later on, Kishimoto made that character canon and the weapon canon as well. So Urban used the ability on Raiga and Uta and a few other non-canon characters that are now totally canon. Wouldn't that be crazy if that was the ability? That would be a really powerful devil fruit. That would probably be the strongest devil fruit in history. No, it's like a literal cannon. So in Japanese, the name of this devil fruit, and I'm going to mess it up, I think it's literally just pronounced Tsutsu Tsutsu No Mi. Like, this is how it's spelled, right? Okay? And so that literally translates to just gun barrel, and so gun barrel human. So cannon fruit, or barrel fruit, either or, okay? I'm not really sure which one I'm going to use for the thumbnail yet. I might use that feature on YouTube that allows me to switch between 2 of them. That might work best, okay? So Urban doesn't really get that much time to shine during Egghead, although just first off, his design is very interesting. I mean, he has the underbite with the big like fangs coming up out of them. It seems like he has a little bit of ancient giant design going on. Okay, so it might be. I mean, I think he's like the size of like most vice admirals, so he's like a tall dude, but he's not like giant sized. Wears a very interesting outfit, a very flashy yellow vest and a black shirt and a red tie, and has a very, like, a much more high-pitched voice than I originally intended coming from Urban. When I heard his voice for the first time in the anime, I was actually, like, surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, I did not expect him to have that voice. So yeah, maybe something we'll learn a little bit more about Urban later on in terms of, like, maybe he's part ancient giant or something. But for the sake of Egghead in this video, he only really uses his ability a couple of times, but it's interesting enough. There's a few different caveats to discuss here. So it allows him to turn his body into a gun barrel or a cannon, and he can fire things out of the cannon. Okay, that's cool. But does he have the ability to turn his body into a cannon? Because the only time we ever see him use the power is on his hat. So Urban walks around wearing a top hat. I have Sabo's here for scale. And yeah, just like the top of the top hat is like a gun barrel, and he just literally like just ready the cannons. Boom! And then that's what he does, okay? So could he have the ability to turn his arms into cannons or his chest into cannons? You know, literally there is a term called barrel-chested. That would be perfect for Urban. He just like, flexes his pecs, and like 2 giant cannons come out and just boom, 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 boom. He just fires them that way. We don't know. It's a very interesting power because, like, any other ability that allows you to, like, change your body around, like Kelly Funk ate the jacket fruit, it didn't allow him to summon jackets or transform the clothing he was wearing into jackets. Like, he became the jacket, right? And a lot of other devil fruits have a similar aesthetic. Sometimes it molds and melds with a character's clothing and things like that, but considering the fact he ate the cannon fruit, I'm assuming he could turn his body into gun barrels and fire things out of them. This is also kind kind of very similar to Wapple. You know, when Wapple has the Baku Baku no Mi, he eats a cannon, he turns his arms and stuff into cannons. So maybe Oda wanted to do something a little different with Urban, like a similar kind of ability. It's also important to mention the relation of this power with some other ones, okay? So when you think about it, we have the Buki Buki no Mi, which is Baby 5's arms fruit. And with that one, when we're talking about projectile and melee weapons, it's probably like the best devil fruit ever. We also have Mr. 1 Daz Bones' Supa Supa no Mi that allows him to summon blades. So you can kind of look at it like the Supa Supa no Mi is a specialized bladed weapon, like a slash weapon melee devil fruit. Baby 5's arms fruit is sort of like any weapon you can think of, like guns, bladed weapons, blunt weapons, piercing weapons, like anything you can think of is that, right? And then we have some other devil fruits too that allow you to summon objects and kind of like fling them at opponents and things like that. When it comes to Urban, it is specifically just a cannon, okay? So, yeah, I don't know. Even if it is just limited to his clothing, you know, he could turn his sleeves of his jacket into a cannon, right? You could do that. So, something else interesting about Urban is every time we see him, he's carrying around a cannon sponge. You might have seen these before in like old pirate movies and things like that, where in order to, you know, maintain your cannon, you gotta have a set of different equipment, and it isn't just a cannon sponge. There's things that are like, you know, ramrods and things, and there's things that can like scrape the inside of the cannon to get out, I guess, like residual, like gunpowder. It gets all gunked up inside. You gotta keep your cannon lubricated. I mean, there's a lot of upkeep you gotta do to a cannon. And apparently Urban has to do that too with his. Like, he has to carry around a cannon sponge because I guess, you know, the cannon in his top hat gets, like, gunked up sometimes. He has to, you know, take the cannon sponge and, like, keep it clean. That just seems like maybe that's the reason he doesn't want to turn his body into a cannon if you have to actually upkeep the cannon. That would just get disgusting after a while, right? You know, it's like he turns his arm into a cannon, but it's like all mixed with like gunpowder and then also his skin and his muscles and his blood. And it's like, that's how you get an infection or something, okay? So probably maybe best he just keeps it to his outfit, right? Maybe that is the reason, right? But yeah, that's a little bit of an unusual drawback to a devil fruit ability. It's like you have to like maintain the object that you're transforming into as if it was actually that object. It kind of takes the magical, whimsical angle of devil fruits out of the equation there, right? So that's something. So last year, as part of my series on the different roles on the high seas that you could have, like I haven't finished it yet, but I was talking about the different roles that a pirate crew would actually have, like back in the day, okay? Back in like the 17th century. And so one of the roles was the marksmen or the gunners that were on those crews. And so I made a whole video about that. And one of the most interesting things about that video was talking about all the different kinds of artillery, all the different kinds of like cannonballs that humans thought up to shove into a cannon, blast at an enemy ship, and just completely mess them up. It wasn't as simple as just the standard round shot of a cannonball, right? They came up with a whole bunch of different ways to kill each other. And more specifically, not even really so much about killing each other, but more about like crippling the ship, all right, to destroy the mast or rip the sail or burn a hole in the side of the vessel so it like sinks, all right? That was more of what like naval combat was about back in the day. So you have round shot. You also have chain shot. This is where you have two cannonballs that are connected together via a chain. You blast it out of a cannon, and as it's flying through the air, you basically have two cannonballs that are like swinging like crazy. That hits into a sail. It creates more of a surface area for the thing to hit and rip apart whatever it slams into. Along with that, we also had bar shot. This is basically two cannonballs that were like forged together with like an iron bar between them. It kind of looks like a dumbbell or like a barbell sort of thing. Just shove that thing into a cannon and just boom, and then it just slams into something. That would just like tear you in half if it hit you. Then there was a thing called spider shot. I just learned about this today. This was just a cannonball with a bunch of chains tied to it. Like just put a bunch of chains on a cannonball, shove it into a cannon, fire it, and then just a bunch of chains flinging at you. Whenever that like smacks into your face, you're dead. Just peels off whatever, you know, strikes you. Canister shot was always a good option. Canister shot and grape shot is basically just you just shove a bunch of stuff into a pack, put that into a cannonball, fire it out, just spreads out like a scattergun and just obliterates whatever that hits. Heated shot or hot shot. I don't know if that's where the term hot shot comes from. It might be. This is where you just, pretty simple, you just heat up the cannonball with an open flame or like a forge or something, then put it into the cannon, then fire it at your enemy. So it does extra burn damage, and you're kind of aiming for something on the enemy ship that it will burn really well. Like if you fired a heated shot and it landed right in their, like, the area on the ship where they kept cannonballs and gunpowder and shit, just blows the whole boat up. That would be fun. So yeah, there are a lot of different ways. You could, like, make a cannonball to load it and fire it at an enemy. Okay, so Urban, if this was like an RPG and Urban was the main character, I know it's just a very tertiary minor character in Egghead, but if Urban was the main character, he'd be running around collecting various upgrades to his cannon. All right, like, you could see a game like that. I would play a game like that, at least on the Super Nintendo, for 10 minutes or so, where you're running around as Urban and, like, it's like in Contra. You're just collecting. It's like, oh man, spread gun. You know, like that's Urban. That's his ability, right? Also, by the way, the name Urban, I think it's because there is a cannon named, like, the Urban Cannon or something like that. Yeah. It's called, it was a famous cannon engineer, Urban. Okay, he's from Hungary. All right, that's cool. And then it's in Japan, those were called the urban cannons because he developed them. All right, so there's the origin of his name. An awakening of this devil fruit, I'm not going to say he just turns more of his body into cannons. I'm just going to say he turns anything around him into cannons. Now that would be terrifying. All right, I want you to imagine something. I'm gonna like, two scenarios really that came to my mind immediately on that. So first scenario, Urban has an awakened cannon fruit. He jumps on top of a multi-story building. Let's say he jumps on top of like a 10-story building, activates his awakening. Every single window, maybe every single brick or entranceway or anything on that building becomes a cannon. So if it's like a 10-story building and there's a bunch of windows on every floor, all those windows just transform into cannons and just boom, 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 just all fire at once from all four sides. That'd be crazy. Like, he just makes a cannon fortress. That's cool. Or let's say he's on a ship and the ship already has cannons, but you need more cannons. He could turn the mast into a cannon. He could turn the figurehead into a cannon. He could turn the entire ship into a cannon. So, yeah, I mean, like, if it's an awakening, he could just turn them anything he wants into a cannon, and that would be really cool. But it seems like he doesn't generate the ammunition. Like, it seems like because he has to carry around a cannon sponge to clean it out and everything like that, I'm assuming he turns his hat into a cannon, and then he still has to, like, take a cannonball and load it in himself, or have his men load a cannon in and load the cannonball in and then fire it. And he's like, okay, take out the sponge. We need to, all right, clean it out. He's like, all right, load another one. In the heat of battle, it's not something that I would not... I mean, like, it's not bad to have it, you know what I mean? To just point your hat at an enemy and just blast them with a cannon. Like, that's pretty cool. But if you got to take the time to reload, I mean, the whole point of these cannons back in the day, especially on the ships during the Great Pirate Era of, like, our times, right? During, like, the 17th century and stuff, they weren't notoriously easy to reload. It wasn't just like, fire the cannons! Boom! All right! Reload, fire the cannon again, boom. It's going to take a while to reload this shit. So hopefully maybe that drawback doesn't exist for him. But, yeah, does he have to light the fuse? Where would the fuse be? I don't need to know. I don't need to know. But yeah, I know it's not a very long video. I mean, I know Bluegrass didn't really show up that much during Egghead either, although she did have a more prominent role than Urban. But her ability was really cool to talk about, right? Because it was like, wow, she can, like, control, like, giant robots and sea beasts and things. Urban is just like, I have a gun barrel in my hat. It goes boom. And it's like, there's only so much mileage I can get out of that. I pretty much tackled everything I wanted to say about it. So, yeah, that's Urban's ability. All right, fine. Video's over. Now, moving on to the last paramecia. And I know, Oda, you're going to reveal more. I know that's how it works. But please, Oda, just do me a favor. Just do me one favor. Don't reveal any more paramecias until the end of the year, please. New Year's comes, 2026. You can reveal as many as you want. But until then, let's just knock out the last one, all right? Biblo's Grow fruit. And then we'll be done. And then we got to move on to Animal Facts Take 2. Later, everybody. Techig signing out.